So welcome, everybody, to the second hour of Mind Shifters Radio. Today is Friday, January the 28th, 2022. And our call-in number is 563-999-3581. And press 1, and that puts you in the queue to talk to us. And we'd love to hear your comments and questions because that makes this your show. We have really had some good conversation going on this week, and I hope that today is the same with people calling in and asking questions. We've got several people that are doing the self-study, and I've told a couple of them to call in and ask their questions, so I hope that they do. And we'll give Michael just a moment to get dialed in. I invite you to go to our website, which is www.whyagain.org. And you can click on the Start Here button, or you can scroll down and click the bullseye in the middle of the page. We've added several things. I've got a to-do list of things to add to the website, and probably under the page that's classified as More from the app, so that people can access it from the app as well. A couple of those things that I'm looking at putting out there is the special shows of the Beatitudes, where we did the wake-up sheet. Several days on the radio show, we went through the wake-up sheets and everything from the app. And so there's a lot of information, and the app continues to grow. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, dear heart, and welcome, everybody. Delighted that you're here once again to share this space and to help us to inquire into the nature of first century Aramaic forgiveness. How do we step out of the extinction event of the insanity of hostility and fear and eating food that is based in something other than what it's designed for? How do we step out of that? And if you go back into this ancient Aramaic language, you find that there was a gentleman there who was a physicist, a physiologist, a geneticist, a psychologist who answered that question. How do you maintain life? How do you bring forward this presence of love that you are so that you truly live as a human being? And that's really the bottom line of everything that we're talking about with this work. And all of the tools that we've developed over the decades of bringing that teaching to life is what we're here to support. We're here to support being able to shift out of the conversation of the culture based in hostility and fear and to shift that game. And I came across a quote by Liam Neeson that I thought was just really powerful. He says, "Everyone says love hurts." I remember the song, "Love Hurts." So everyone gets these things confused. That's not true. But in reality, love is the only thing in the world that covers up all pain and makes one feel wonderful again. Pretty powerful response. Love is the only thing in this world that does not hurt, says Neeson. And I thought it was interesting coming from his mouth that he's been through his share of trauma in the world to come forward with that sort of an insight. I thought was quite powerful. And when you realize that love is a state of being that literally enlightens this mind and body, it's the active presence of love that is the light in which truth becomes visible. If we are enamored at all with truth, if we choose to honor truth, it becomes visible and it really truly becomes the only viable option. And so the whole idea of this work is to recognize that if it's not based in love, there's work to be done. And the work, the primary work, is that of forgiveness. And in truth, you forgive until you've let go of everything that's unlike your newborn nature. If you've ever held a newborn, we've asked this question of tens of thousands of people all over the globe, and everyone always describes the newborn's essence with a word that's some variation on the theme of love. Now, if you go back, if you hold that newborn, is the newborn loving you or is the newborn love? It's pretty clear that love is a noun, and we offer it's a state of being, and it's one that I can maintain with practice, of course, no matter what somebody else does. It's the key to healing self, others, and the world. Now, our culture's misled us into believing and thinking that love is a verb, so I attempt to love you, and that's an impossibility. Only the deluded think they can love another. The effort we want to put into is remembering and living as who and what we really are. There can never be a difference between what you really are and what love is. And if I enter into the practice of holding to that space in your presence, now I've achieved the goal. Yeshua never said love your neighbor. Never happened. Never was spoken. It was have Rakhma for your neighbor, and Rakhma is a filter in the frontal lobes of the brain that allows love to remain present in you. I can embrace you in my being, but that's not loving you. That's me functioning as love. And when I'm not experiencing that presence of love, it's an inside job. I'm the one who have deleted my awareness of it from myself. And whatever I've used to delete it, whatever I've used to block it, and it's usually some sort of hostility or fear, that's the inside job that needs to be taken care of. And that sort of energetic pattern warns us of its presence after it's been ignored time and time again. The energy that we choose to engage in, that we choose to create our lives by, literally hits a cell. The cell biologists are telling us that when you think a thought, that thought produces in your body a neuropeptide, an actual molecule, and that molecule lands somewhere on your cell where there's a receptor site and somewhere in your structure, and it sets off a signal that reflects the quality of its presence to the cell. And that's either going to be a signal that, yeah, this feels good, wonderful, we're right on track, or it's going to be some form of hostility or fear. A signal comes early, and if we ignore it and ignore it and ignore it and ignore it, the cost becomes higher and higher and higher and higher, because the assault to our tissue structure, as we refuse to become responsible, the mind's always got somebody else to blame, the assault to our tissue structure becomes deeper and deeper, and one experiences deeper and deeper levels of pain. And they think that pain is physical, but it's really not. It's the energetic assault of a neuropeptide on a cell, repeated assault from that same pathway, from that same neuropeptide, that is of a disintegrative nature. Now, in the process, if you engage in that of healing what's not loving you, it will be your own hostility and fear-based, literally neuropeptides that you will encounter. And by removing those neuropeptides from the cell, the damage being done by the cell, or to the cell, is removed. The damaging energy is removed, and the cell is able to go back to its natural shape. Now, we've all got deficiencies, and most of us use the excuse of someone else's deficiency to say, that's why I'm hostile. I'm only because of you. That's why I attack. It's because of you that I have pain or depression, whatever. And as the healing process happens, that's going to come up again, that energetic pattern. And if we keep playing the game of whoever's present, we'll blame them. Of course, it's their fault. Well, yes, I've been through this 87 different times with 42 different people for decades and decades. And oh, yeah, but this time it's actually truly their fault. Another's deficiency is not the cause of our hostility, our pain. Just need to remember that every time it's happened, we've been there. And there's nothing in another's behavior that requires us to stoop to their level. The only one who suffers from your own hostility, rage, guilt, grief, pain is you. When we engage in it, we get the original, someone else gets a carbon copy, and they may not be home for delivery. And the test that verifies whether or not a feeling, you can tell whether or not it's actually yours or not, is, are you feeling it? If you're feeling it, you know who it belongs to. And so we have a whole series of tools that we've developed. Everything from, and we've talked in the last few days about the commitment. We've talked about the definition of life, and that life is love flowing through a cell. And when I take responsibility for maintaining my own human life, love within me, I am going to have to forgive the habit in myself that set that pain in motion in the first place. Someday I'm going to have to remember that. I'm feeling this is mine, even though my mind can construct a picture world that attaches my pain to my brain image of someone else, and I can be sure that it's theirs. But the assaults that I do, I assault first my own tissue structure and reinforce my own pain. So the idea of maintaining this condition of love, we go back, and when they said to Yeshua, what's most important in the law, as I said before, he never said love your neighbor or yourself or as yourself or the Creator. In essence, the end result, the word he used was Rakhma, a filter in the frontal lobes of the brain that is a gateway for life to enter into this human form. That's its primary motive. That's its primary mechanism of action. So life, being love flowing through a cell, your responsibility is enhance and make sure that that love continues to flow, and that anything that restricts or limits it, anything that inhibits it, and that's usually hostility or fear, is your responsibility to remove. And the removal process is called forgiveness. So forgiveness is removing anything that interferes with the flow of love in your structure. Anything that interferes with your human life, because that active presence of love is literally your life. And we all started out with it. And we pretty much all had it assaulted. And we pretty much follow the patterns of assault that our power persons did to us. No one is a thug, but one's own behavior is perhaps thuggish. Like all hostile minds, I'm talking about all of us. But like all who've lost their way, the conscious, active presence of love can bring us back to that space of active love. If you haven't worked with the commitment recently, or you haven't been on the show, we did talk about it the other day, but it just strongly comes to me to share it again today. Promise to trust you enough to tell you the truth and be true to you. I commit to always be sweetness in your life, to nurture you daily and treat you lovingly, gently, and with respect in my thoughts, words, and actions, whether in your presence or not. In every interaction, I commit to affection for you, to look for and acknowledge the highest and best in you, as I surrender to love, our true nature. I will use only voice tones that reflect my deep caring for you. And when we step into living that commitment, everything unlike what it is we're saying is going to have to surface. So I'm going to remember that my connection to my source, my relationship with you, and our serenity is always more important than any issue. I open my being to embrace you in my love. So I'm going to imagine myself being able to open at the highest levels of my being to hold you, and at the same time be in the space where I'm willing to have you do the same, to be embraced in your love. As I said the other day when we were sharing this, if you do that, then everything that's unlike love is going to start to move in you. So the next paragraph of the commitment is what you're going to do when that happens. So if anything unlike love comes up, I'll hold this in my heart and listen as I learn to speak, experience, and be responsible for my own realities. I'm here for and with you. I promise to keep communication open and keep love conscious, active, and present as we heal, celebrate life, and grow together. So that's where we were envisioning going. Mahatma Gandhi said we must make the injustice visible. I offer that making justice invisible, it must be done in the context of love and start with the injustices in our own hearts. We must honor truth enough to do that. And that subtle work of internal healing needs to be done before one can hold self and others accountable. Holding a space of love for the quote-unquote offenders of the world, those who don't think like you, is a skill that must be acquired by those who would become healers. And it has to start with self. It's an interesting piece of writing that was done by a man named Baha'u'llah. Baha'u'llah is a man who started the Baha'i faith, one of the world religions that came out of the Aramaic language, and actually fairly recently, 1700s if I remember correctly. And he writes so beautifully about what it's going to look like when you achieve the level of inner work that we're talking about, when that's completed. Here's what he writes it will look like. Should any come to blows with you, seek to be friends with him. Should any stab you in the heart, be a healing salve to his sores. Should any taunt and mock at you, meet him with love. Should any heap his blame upon you, praise him. Should he offer you a deadly poison, give him the choicest honey in exchange. And should he threaten your life, grant him a remedy that will heal him evermore. Should he be in pain itself, be ye his medicine. Should he be thorns, be ye his roses and sweet herbs. Perchance such ways and words from you will make this darksome world turn bright at last, will make this dusty earth turn heavenly, this devilish prison place become a royal palace of love, so that war and strife will pass and be no more. And love and trust will pitch their tents on the summits of the world. I thought that was a very powerful piece of writing from Baha'u'llah. Thank you for that. And he's a man who knew, he's a man who, because of his teaching based in love and his criticism of war, was put in prison and tortured, and I don't even know the whole crazy story, but it wasn't exactly the way he was treated. Turned that into his teacher. So our objective with this work, is to remember the importance of that possibility and how the mind can twist it and turn it in 1,000 directions. That word love especially, if you remember, Vladimir Lenin said that if you want to destroy a culture, change the meaning of its words. And recognize that love describes a state of being, what you are. And it seems like a subtle refinement, but it really is an important one if you're going to live as a true human being. Instead of attempting or setting the goal to attempt to love someone as though you could possibly do love, you want to set the goal to experience yourself as love in every circumstance, and then forgive or remove anything unlike love that surfaces, till the only thing left is you. So that's, in a nutshell, the most basic course in this work and the most advanced course in this work. And we're delighted that you're here to be part of the conversation, remembering that each time you dip into a new level of vitality, it's going to serve up a new level of what it is that you've always said you never want to deal with and you never want to feel again. And remember, once again, if you're feeling it, it's yours. If you ignore it, deny it, dissociate from it, and project it into your brain's image of someone else and talk as though they're the cause of your pain, then you'll drive that pain still deeper. So that's what we're here to learn. That's what we're here to teach. That's what we're here to bring to the world. We want to move out of this belief that the Greeks gave us that we're supposed to love one another and move into a world where we recognize that our job description is really, truly that of achieving a life where we live 24/7, 365 as a state of love. And when you realize that in you are 1,000 generations of other than that, then 1,000 times 1,000 calls will come that will bring up those voices from the past. When they force this Greek, they impose this Greek meaning for love into Yeshua's mouth, they left us stuck in this error upon which most of other errors rest. When we lose the awareness of ourselves as love, that's when the mind starts to go into all the crazy things that people try to do to force the achievement of their goals. One command, love one another, falsely spoken and believed, leaves us striving to do the impossible. The other, in Aramaic, explains something that's very achievable. The power of life and death is in our words, Yeshua said 2,000 years ago. And the meanings we hold for them are key. If you recognize that this word love describes a state of being that is your birthright to live, then that's going to become prime directive. And about know the truth and the truth will set you free. But most people don't really want the truth. We talked about the movie It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. And the basic message that to me is demonstrated in that film is this character who's interacting with Mr. Rogers. Basically has no interest whatsoever in actually looking at the truth about his life. He does everything to escape it. The basic message he gives back to Mr. Rogers is a message that many give to life, and that is, don't make me look. I will force you to shut up if you try to make me look, and then I will make you the bad guy, because I don't want to look at what's mine. So that's what we're here to understand and incarnate, to bring into the world. And we're delighted that you're part of the conversation and here to be in the learning and the teaching of it. And so, Miss Janie, do we have anybody in the phone queue with a hand up or anybody in the chat room with a thought for us?
No, it's all quiet. We have 33 minutes, so we have plenty of time. Press 1. A hand just went up. 904, I believe.
Great.
This is Dusty. You're on the air.
Well, hey there, young man. How are you? Are you with us, Dusty? Is your phone on mute? Your hand is up. Janie's opened your microphone, Dusty. Are you with us? If not, maybe if you can hear me, maybe you want to hang up and dial back in again. Let's try this again because it doesn't seem to be working from your end. Can't hear you. And is Dusty still on, Jeannie?
No, he hung up, so let's give him just a minute and see if he dials back in.
So give him a second and see if he calls back in again. Hello, Dusty. How are you? It's interesting while we're waiting for Dusty to come back in that there are so many ideas in the Aramaic language that there aren't even symbols. We don't even have grunts or groans or words, so what we call words. Oh, there he is. Hey, young man.
Oh, hi. It actually works.
I can hear you.
Yay.
How do you be? Yeah, you're working loud and clear.
Well, gosh. How about that? The marvels of modern technology. Yay, finally.
You know, it is really amazing. I mean, here I am in Bristol, Virginia. Here you are in Florida, and we've got a network up in, I believe it's in New York or New Jersey that's hooking us together. And, you know, Bob's down there in Australia listening. Maybe Peter's in where's Peter? He's in Sweden. Pippi is in Thailand. And here we are all having a conversation. How cool is that?
Yeah, I think that's just marvelous. It reminds me of my early ham radio days when the magic was like, oh my goodness, you know, when I didn't.
Right.
Most people didn't have that. So, you know, I was going to ask you a question about something that happened a few days ago, but one thing that popped into my mind a couple of days ago, you know how the Greeks seem to want to slap their own little variation of anything on anything. It came to me that the Greeks and the Romans, they just like stories. They love stories.
True.
Period. You know what I mean? That's part of it. And I was even thought about the geology of Greece and how it's just a lot of it's these little islands, and it's in between Turkey and Rome, and what an interesting place. And I could see between the seafaring and et cetera, why they had so many stories. I mean, just based on the human dynamic of that. But I wanted to ask you a question. A week ago, Monday, he said, I'm sure you can remember every word you said, that you were talking about how perception is generated. It's not from the outside in, it's from the inside out.
Right.
Your theory about something informs what you see. And
yes.
And you did something for me that was provocative. You mentioned that the CIA had done a study on that and come up with the same. Yes. And I wonder if you could elaborate on what you know about that study, their modus operandi, their application, whatever they were willing to release. Do you remember anything?
Yeah, I do. And actually, I want to go back just a few thoughts before I go into that particular piece of research from the CIA. When you talk about stories, you brought up a story that really gave Jeannie and I a deep picture into exactly what it was you were talking about. And back, and I'm not even sure what year it was now, but the year that the movie 300 was released. Have you seen that film?
Yes.
Well, the movie 300 was released, and when Jeannie and I traveled, especially, well, we still do it. It wasn't only when we travel, but our mode of play is watching movies. And we had done a particularly grueling week, and the week was over, and we decided, I think it was a Saturday afternoon, we had the day off, and we were going to go do a double header. And we were in Tampa, and we looked at, what was available. And the movie 300 was just opening in one theater. And then not far away, there was another movie that we'd heard of called Mystic India that we decided was going to be our second movie. So we went and saw 300, and man, talk about violent and vicious, and God.
It's thump your chest kind of violence. Yeah.
Unbelievable. But you see a mindset there that is so pervasive in our culture today with what's going on. And then, we got in the car. I don't remember. I'm thinking we stopped and had lunch and then went and saw Mystic India. Have you seen that film?
No, it's a gentle film, right?
Oh, it's profoundly powerful. This young man, at the age of, I'm not even sure, 12 or 13, maybe even 10, knows why he's here as a human being to teach. Basically, we felt right at home because it's right in harmony with what we're doing. And his family, didn't particularly support that. And so he literally, it's a true story, and if I remember correctly, it was maybe in the 1600s or 1700s, this man or this young boy went out and jumped in a pretty powerful raging river so that nobody could follow him or stop him. And he went on a pilgrimage where he walked around India, and I'm not remembering the details right now. We should probably dig that movie out and watch it again. But I'm thinking it was like something like 17 or 18 years. This kid just walked around covering thousands of miles, village upon village upon village, to teach what he knew he was here to teach, and that was that we are the presence of love. One particular scene that sticks out in my mind when I think about that story, and the reason I tell this when you brought up that idea of stories, is how different would the theology of this culture be if Yeshua had been presented through that culture, Mystic India, rather than through in the Western world, the Greek culture. How different would it have been? There's one particular scene where this young man is, he's 12 or 13, and he comes to this village where he sits down under a tree to meditate, and a priest comes out and says, "Hey, we've had a man-eating tiger in this village," and this is apparently a true story. And he says, "Come in, sleep in our temple where we can protect you." And the kid replies, "Can your temple protect me from death?" And the priest kind of, confused says, well, yeah, of course not, but come in and we'll protect you. He says, basically it's just thanks, I'll just stay right here. And in the morning, according to the story, the man-eating lion was laying beside him, kind of in meditation the same way the kid was. And that was the last time that lion attacked anyone. But when you think about all the stories and how much the focus in the Greek culture is on this idea of sin and violence and rejection and self-deprecation and not being worthy and not being good enough and not being you think about the stories that we've been told that have led to a culture that supposedly is Christian but has 32,000 sects of Christianity, many of them supporting some of the worst violence that's ever been done in the world. And then you look at that culture, and if those stories, if that had come out of that culture, how different would our culture be? How different could the game be?
Yeah. And, it's funny that you're bringing this up because a big thing in my life is that dichotomy between those two geographical areas where my inner growth and being, it seems to come strongest and best from anything that was anywhere near the Himalayas and that way of thinking and being. And I had kind of given up on the whole, Mediterranean, Greco-Roman, et cetera, until I started hearing your program with the Aramaic, and of course there's beauty in everything. But I really like that even now, for instance, if you go to Nepal, Hinduism, which has been around for just practically forever, and Buddhism get along great. They even some of them celebrate each other's festivals or days of this or that. Right. In the West, the Protestant Christians are slaughtering, vice versa, the Roman Catholics. And I'm going, what?
It's crazy.
So I agree. I know it's just nutso how that is.
And the places where that kind of thing is happening is where the provocateurs show up and lie to both sides of the equation to set them at odds with each other. If you go to Palestine, for thousands of years, the Jews, the Christians, and the Muslims got along. They were brothers. They cooperated. They lived in communities together. They took care of each other's children.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
There's a powerful film entitled The Other Son. If you haven't seen it, it's worth looking up. And it's about a Palestinian woman who is in Jerusalem, and there's some sort of attack. Something happens there. She's in the hospital delivering a child, and there's a Jewish woman in the same hospital delivering a child, and the hospital is attacked. And in the confusion of that attack, the two children get switched.
Whoops.
So the Jewish family is now raising a Palestinian boy, and the Palestinian parents are raising a Jewish son, and they don't know it.
Perfect.
Until the boys are of the age where, in Jerusalem or in Israel, everybody has to serve in the army, and the father of this, what we find out is a Palestinian boy that he thinks is his son, gets notification because when his son is inducted into the Army, they do genetic testing, and they come back and find out, hey, buddy, this is not your son. And they go back and, ferret out what happened, the switch of the two children, and go and inform the parents. And the trauma that, everybody's going. I mean, it's a powerful place for processing because, here's this kid who's been learning what, Jewish boys are taught about Palestinians, and all of a sudden he's like, oh my God, I'm one of them. And the Jewish kid has been taught everything he's been taught about Jews, and he thinks he's Palestinian. He realizes he's now a Jew, and the conflict of that. And then the parents, the father, who's the military guy, he doesn't want anything to do with this knowledge. No, that can't be true. Can't be my son. Can't. And, just the resolution that they come to, what they need to deal with. It's really powerful film if you haven't seen it.
Yes, it sounds like it. And it's funny
Lots
you would say that because I had a minor version of that in my life, in that when my dad had died, my mom and I moved to Idaho when I was about 4. I wound up taking on the name of Henderson, this guy she married. So all the way 1 through 12, 1 through 13 and a half, I was Dusty Henderson until I joined the Army. And then they looked at me and they went, whoop, sorry to tell you this, son, your real name's Young. And I went,
wow. So you didn't even have awareness of that?
No, I didn't know. I thought I'd been legally adopted, by this guy, and I hadn't. So my real name was still really Young, and I was thrilled. I didn't want any part of the Henderson thing anyway.
So, yeah, I can understand that from what you've told us about what that was like. Powerful. Mm-hmm.
Right. It's, oh my goodness. So, it did hit me pretty strong about that whole story aspect of that region. And I still find it just beautifully amazing when I've seen documentaries on some places in Indonesia or wherever, anywhere that there's Buddhism and Hinduism side by side, and rarely are they at odds. They're usually on the same loving, someplace together.
Except where the provocateurs are. The film Gandhi is a very powerful demonstration of that, too, because Gandhi was brought up. One of the scenes in the movie Gandhi, he speaks of how the whatever they called in his particular religion, what they called the spiritual leader. He would said one week we would read from the Quran, another week we would read from the Upanishads, another week we would read from the Christian text, and it didn't matter because it was all about the same thing.
Yeah.
But then we have these constructs in our mind. Yeah. Who was it that we have the privilege of being separated by a common language?
Well, that's nice. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Every now and then you come up with these great one-liners like that. I like it.
Yeah, I forget who said that. I think it might have been Winston Churchill, I think.
Oh yeah, he did some buttes. Yes.
Yeah. In any event, your question about the CIA.
Yes. I'm curious as to what they actually let loose of what they studied.
Well, number one, you can go to our website and there's a link, or through the app you can get to the link and you can download the book free, or you can go to CIA.gov and search for the study of human intelligence. The book is on their website. It's moved around a couple of times, so Jeannie has a link directly on our website to it. And
great.
So their study was they're working with their intelligence agents, and what they're attempting to do is to understand how to get the best intelligence. It seems they had the recognition that perception has a quality, And, somebody who's at a level 1 on a scale of 1 to 10 in perceptual quality, we would consider to be not very bright. And somebody who's at 10, well, they're a genius. And so their objective, as I understand it, was to upgrade the quality of the perceptual content of their agents' minds in order to get the best intelligence possible for their purposes. So there's a chapter in the book on this whole idea of perception, and here's the quote verbatim from the book. People tend to think of perception as a passive process. We see, hear, smell, taste, and feel stimuli that impinge upon our senses, that if we are at all objective, we record what is actually there. Yet perception is a demonstrably active process rather than passive. It constructs rather than records reality. Perception implies, they say, understanding as well as awareness. It is a process of inference in which people construct their own version of reality on the basis of information provided through the 5 senses. Now, I think they're totally, completely off base on that last sentence, because people don't construct their own version of reality on the basis of the information provided through the 5 senses. They construct their reality out of the interaction between the information that comes through the senses and what that information resonates or stimulates within an individual. And the thing that makes our perception unique as individual is the history stored within our structure, genetic and otherwise, that tell or project our story into the information that's coming into our senses.
See, that's what I see a lot. I see people who have their preconceptions or their, that saying, if they who don't live, don't learn from history are bound to repeat it. Well, some people just want to repeat it, and they go around with the whole matrix. The truth can't come through. Some do, and project that on whatever they want. And I guess we're all guilty of that. So.
Yeah, my take, I don't think anybody wants to repeat a painful, traumatic experience. People are just ignorant and don't know that they're doing it to themselves. There's just no awareness.
Well, it's not necessarily to themselves. It's directly happening that I'm thinking of. I'm just thinking of people that actually are kind of harmful, the harmful types that just would do it anyway, regardless.
Those without Rakhma.
But, yes. Yeah. But nobody wants to repeat pain if their own pain, if they can help it. And those with love, I suppose. In the realm of
what they call the masochist.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Now, and I've run into sadists, too.
Yeah. You know what the sadist says to the masochist when the masochist says, beat me?
What?
The true sadist says no. Got it?
Oh, that's good. That's good. Well, that's a little flipsy doodle. So the CIA thing. So where did that come out at? Kind of.
I'm not sure what you mean. Where did it come out at?
Well, I mean, I understand what you said, that people kind of project or have it's not all objective. It's their perception of reality. Anyways, you were going on with how they were describing things. I like that. I wondered if there was any more of it.
Well, as I say, you can download. I just happen to have, I've got the quote in front of me that I've cut and put into my notes for reference. But as I say, you can download the whole book and read it. it's pretty interesting stuff.
Okay.
But it's been a while since I've availed myself of it. But there's a lot of interesting material in it. You know, the way they carried out the studies and those sorts of things.
Right. In your opinion,
into.
do you think they did a pretty truthful disclosure, a study and disclosure, and for the most part got some things right?
Pretty objective.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of shocks me when, you know, that last sentence that I read, that it is a process of inference in which people construct their own version of reality on the basis of information provided through the five senses. It amazes me that they didn't interject in there on the basis of what information that comes in through the five senses arouses in them. That's kind of mind-boggling. They
right.
didn't appear to understand that. They think it's just, well, you know, the five. If that were true, everybody in the same room at the same time would have the same perceptual construct. And obviously, you and I know that we've been in rooms where there were two or more people whose perception of the events was not the same. And so each person's constructing their own based on the content of their minds, not just the information in the room. Pretty clearly.
Well, that makes sense. When in my video production business, I started off. I probably did hundreds of depositions where I would take a camera and a bunch of microphones and a mixer, and I would go off to someplace, a doctor's office or court, someplace, and there would be, I would set up the camera and the microphones, and anyways, that whole thing, and that's what it did. It was court admissible, and it was interesting to me that I knew that I could, if I wanted to, ever so unconsciously bias the viewer by just
tweak those things,
the camera and fix. Yeah, but I never did that. I always kept it straight on. I kept everything just as clean and as objective as I possibly could. But I knew of those things, and I was always tickled by how little it takes to slightly bias something. For instance, in this case, since I went on it, if I lowered the camera just a bit more, so we're looking up at the deponent, whoever is testifying, it seems to give them a little more credulity, whereas if I raise the camera and now we're looking down, a little less. Ever so subtle, but it might make the difference in a court of law. You know.
Right.
Little things like that. And I'm of course, I just never did that. I would never do that because that wasn't what I was there for.
Interesting. Well, certainly we see the effects of that in the media world all the time. How the story of the people in the room isn't the story that the video tells. It's like, well, how did you do that? I guess there are a lot of tricks in that world.
Well, yeah, there's too much that can be manipulated in the digital world, and so it's hard to know any kind of fact from fiction except your own direct perception. But I also wanted to add that Monday, a week ago last Monday, when you were talking that was a very dynamic presentation, my brother. I was really impressed in that you were so succinct, but yet so heartfelt and just had the energy for it. And then I started thinking, you've been doing this for 10 years. So doing this must energize you in some way or rock your boat or something, or you'd be getting way weary of it by now.
Well, how enthused do you get when you're on purpose?
Yes, exactly.
There it is. I mean, one of the workshops we do is called Purpose, Personal Power, and Commitment, and we invite people to start to look at whether they've been brainwashed into doing something that isn't in harmony, and that's when they get tired of it. Or when they get clear, we've got an exercise we give people for determining what their purpose is, and then we suggest they start to set their lives up and their goals up on purpose. And all of a sudden, things get a whole lot more exciting because we're being fed as we live what we're here for. If we're here to do a job for a buck, you don't get fed by that. I mean, the belly might get fed, but the being doesn't. And shifting out of working for a living into doing what your purpose is. And, I could do this all day long.
Oh, yeah. Well, you sound like you could. And I think it's amazing that you two have that. I call it the dog and pony show with the highest affection, but I love the way you and Jeannie interact on this whole thing. It's just great.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. And when we do an intensive at Heartland, there are days where I'll be up in front of the room teaching, basically what we're doing here for as much as 10 or 11 hours a day.
Wow.
And do that for 65 days straight.
Man, that's you have to love it.
Our teaching center.
Yeah,
I do. It's food for me. But at Heartland, we'll do a summer season, and our summer season includes usually a 65-day intensive, and that's 65 days, day by day by day. We're just in the throes of every angle and every piece of information. We'll do laws of living, we'll do teacher training, we'll do why is this happening to me again, healing through relationships, intuitive development, A Course in Miracles. We just do, one right after the other, and easily, it's kind of fun because about, the first, second, or third day, somebody who's registered for the 65 days will start to say, well, wait a minute now, how can we do this for 65 days? That's ridiculous. I mean, how could we do that? And then along about day 63 or 64, the conversation is, well, we're not going to stop already, are we? We've just gotten started. We're just scratching the surface. Really, truly. I mean,
wow.
That's what it feels like. It's
that's amazing, because I've never heard of an intensive that went much past 2 weeks or a month at the most, but 65 days? Wow.
Yeah. And again, at say 63, it feels like we're just scratching it. It's like people are moving into deeper and deeper levels of process. Literally, when you think about that research that says in a time frame, out of Harvard, that says in a time frame where 10,000 brain cells firing, our perception is made up of 9 bits. And you realize there's a barrier that blocks us from what's being held in that unconscious. The whole process of this work deepens. It opens that veil, that barrier, and it deepens contact with one's own unconscious dynamics. And when you start moving into that realm, and then you start getting to the level where your genetics are opening, it's pretty profound. Yeah. And then one of the things we talk about are the metaphorical is presented in the scriptures, the 5 smooth stones of David, and that there are 5 higher spiritual faculties that were being talked about. And as you start to open those faculties, that just literally opens a whole other realm.
And
that's what it's all about. It is good. It is good stuff. It's pretty exciting to do.
And in a way, and I know we're drawing close on time, but in a way, as I'm hearing that, it occurs to me it's kind of a loose parallel, but it has the same dynamic. I heard Ann Wilson of the musical group Heart, the 2 gals that had that whole, were very powerful pop stars for a while. And she said something more succinctly. I'd heard some blues musicians say, women mostly, say the same thing, but she said, I have to have a song. The song has to be authentic for me. Meaning that, pablum like little puppy dog loves things. No, that's not where she's at right now. So it needs to be authentic for her. And when I heard that, she sort of set me free in a way on that, because I had a tendency to change a word or two every now and then to make it maybe not as dark or more authentic to me. And the more I do that, the more I find out that I can change anything I want to, if that way I can own it. And if I can own the song, then I can get inside it and inhabit it.
Right.
And that's the only way I know how to do it. And there's
out of your purpose. Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. And it becomes kind of what you're talking about. You're in your passionate groove there, and you've got something bright that you're teaching. And I just think that's amazing. That I still can't hardly believe 65-day intensive, man. That's objective. And I just realized we're right down to the last few seconds. The phone is going to cut us off any second, so I'm just going to thank you for the conversation. Appreciate you, my friend. Blessings. You too. Bye-bye.